2025 was supposed to be a legendary year for gaming. Instead, it became a graveyard of broken promises, rushed launches, and corporate greed. From technical disasters to soulless sequels, these are the games that completely failed to meet expectations.
MindsEye, the most infamous disaster. If there was one game that defined the word failure in 2025, it was MindsEye. Coming from Leslie Benzies, the former producer of GTA, the hype was untouchable. We were promised the ultimate open-world GTA killer, but what we got was a technical skeleton of a game that felt 10 years outdated. Why it failed? Technically, MindsEye was a nightmare. It launched with game-breaking bugs that made Cyberpunk 2077 look polished. We're talking about placeholder text left in menus, missions that wouldn't trigger, and AI so brain-dead they would walk into walls during high-stakes chases. But the real failure was the gameplay design. In an era of reactive open worlds, MindsEye felt hollow. You couldn't steal cars, there was no wanted system, and the combat was stiff, lacking even a basic melee or dodge mechanic. The verdict? The story was a mess of techno-thriller cliches that ended on a cliffhanger that we might never see resolved. Following the launch, the studio faced massive layoffs, proving that MindsEye wasn't just a bad game, it was a corporate catastrophe. It tried to sell us a platform for the future, but forgot to build a functioning game first.
2. Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines 2, A Stake Through the Heart. After 6 years of development hell and switching developers midstream, Bloodlines 2 finally crawled out of its coffin in late 2025. Unfortunately, it should have stayed buried. Fans of the 2004 cult classic wanted a deep, immersive RPG. Instead, they got a watered-down action game that stripped away everything that made the original special. Why it failed? The failure was creative and narrative. The Chinese Room version of the game replaced the deep character customization and branching dialogue with a linear, on-rails experience. You weren't playing your vampire, you were playing a predefined character in a story that felt like a walking simulator with bad combat. Technically, the game was plagued by constant crashes and performance dips, even on high-end hardware. The animations were stiff, and the world of darkness felt more like a world of empty corridors. The verdict? It holds a mixed rating on Steam because it's a sequel in name only. It failed to capture the gothic atmosphere of Seattle and alienated the very fanbase that kept the franchise alive for 2 decades. It was the final nail in the coffin for many fans' hopes. Number 3. Call of Duty Black Ops 7: The Campaign Crisis. Call of Duty usually prints money, but Black Ops 7 will be remembered as the year that campaign officially died. While the multiplayer was fine, the single-player/co-op experience was a total train wreck that felt like it was stitched together by AI. Why it failed? The core failure was the always online co-op structure. Activision decided that even if you wanted to play the story alone, you had to be connected to a server. This meant no pausing, lag in a single-player mode, and no checkpoints if your internet flickered. The level design was the ultimate lazy move. Most missions were just slightly modified versions of the Avalon Warzone map. Instead of cinematic, tight missions, you were just running across empty fields to hold a position against waves of bots. The verdict? The story tried to use a hallucination mechanic called the Cradle to explain away weird supernatural enemies, but it just felt like they were reusing assets from the Zombies mode. It was a narrative mess that lacked the prestige feel of older Treyarch titles. FC26, the peak of corporate greed. EA Sports promised us the world with FC26. They hyped up over 20,000 licensed players, 700 clubs, and lifelike animations that were supposed to revolutionize the pitch. On paper, it looked like the ultimate football sim, but once the whistle blew, the reality was a total train wreck.
Why it failed? Despite the shiny new coat of paint, the actual gameplay is a soul-crushing grind. Every match feels exactly the same because of a handful of overpowered mechanics that make the game feel repetitive and honestly boring. But the technical failures are where it really falls apart. Players are reporting massive input lag, constant crashes, and menu delays that make the game feel like it's running on a potato. And get this, every time EA releases a patch to fix the game, they somehow manage to break 5 more things. It's a never-ending cycle of new bugs and broken promises. The verdict? The absolute breaking point for the community? The shameless pay-to-win mechanics. EA doubled down on monetization so hard that skill doesn't even matter anymore. Only your wallet does. This isn't a sports game, it's a casino in a jersey. It's no surprise that fans have absolutely trashed the game, leaving it with a pathetic 3 out of 10 user rating. EA didn't just drop the ball here, they deflated it.
Number 5. Assassin's Creed Shadows, the identity crisis. Assassin's Creed Shadows is a strange case. It didn't fail technically as hard as MindsEye, but it failed to save Ubisoft from its own Ubisoft formula fatigue. After multiple delays, it arrived with a whimper rather than a roar. Why it failed? The failure here was stale design. While feudal Japan looked beautiful, the game felt like a checklist from 2014. The dual protagonist system with Naoe and Yasuke was a great idea, but the story was so poorly paced that it took hours for the game to actually start. Technically, it suffered from open-world bloat, too many icons, too many repetitive camps, and a stealth system that felt broken and inconsistent compared to Ghost of Tsushima. The verdict? Despite decent critic scores, the player reception was cold. It didn't have the must-play energy of Valhalla or Odyssey. It represented the moment when good enough was no longer enough for the fans, leading to disappointing long-term sales for Ubisoft. Number 6. Lost Soul Aside. 10 years for this? We waited nearly a decade for Lost Soul Aside. It was the indie darling that Sony picked up because it looked like Final Fantasy meets Devil May Cry. When it finally dropped in August 2025, the soul was missing. Why it failed? This was a pure optimization failure. On launch, the game struggled to stay above 20 FPS in graphics mode on a base PS5. The combat, which was supposed to be the selling point, felt sluggish because of the frame drops. While the lead developer is talented, the game suffered from too many cooks. The collaboration with Sony led to a development cycle that went in circles, resulting in a game that had flashy combat but a world that felt completely empty. The story was uneven at best, with a cringe-worthy English dub that pulled you out of the experience. The verdict? It was a 6 out of 10 experience that needed more polish and a better narrative hook. After 10 years of hype, okay combat wasn't enough to save it from being forgotten within weeks.
Number 7. FBC Firebreak, the Remedy mess. Remedy Entertainment almost never misses, but FBC Firebreak was their first major disaster. Set in the Control universe, it was supposed to be a fun co-op shooter. Instead, it became a $15 million loss for the studio. Why it failed? The failure was player engagement. Within a month of launch, the Steam player count dropped to double digits. Literally less than 50 people were playing. The game was anemic. It lacked the story-heavy Remedy touch, and the gameplay loop was repetitive and boring. The first hour was so confusing and frustrating that most people just quit and never came back. It felt like a live service game that forgot to give people a reason to stay alive. The verdict? Remedy themselves admitted the game underperformed, and even a massive overhaul patch in late 2025 couldn't bring the players back. It's a heartbreaking example of a great studio trying to chase a trend, co-op shooters, and losing their identity in the process.
Which of these 2025 failures disappointed you the most?
And do you think any of them can recover? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoy thoughtful gaming breakdowns like this, consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.